I couldn't believe the crap that Nikki, my wife of 7 years, had just thrown at me. In just a couple of minutes, I realized how little she really thought about me. We're at a mountain resort attending a 4-day bachelorette party for her older sister, Kirsten, who was getting married for the 3rd time. I couldn't help but wonder how she managed to scam her current fiancé. Was it her money, or did she threaten to sue him? I assumed that, being a lawyer, she no doubt forced him to sign the mother of all prenuptial agreements, probably subjecting him to some form of medieval torture. The day before, Wednesday, we decided to use one of the public hot tubs offered by this establishment. Earlier that day, Kirsten had warned that there might be naked men in the hot tubs. I thought she was just fooling us, but she wasn't. It seemed that the hot baths here were clothing optional. After we entered the water, I noticed that the 5 guys across from us were naked. My assessment was correct as they climbed out of the bath, dried themselves off, and settled into their lounge chairs, not caring that they were exposing themselves to us. However, one guy, a tall, muscular man with long hair, pulled back into a ponytail, was lying on the grass next to the hot tub on his side with one leg up. His equipment seemed huge. I noticed Nikki staring at him with glassy eyes. I guess I should step back and tell you a little about us. My name is Ned Carson, and my wife is Nikki. I am 39 years old, and she is much younger. She just turned 32. I used to be a police officer, but was injured in the line of duty. As a result of my injuries, I was shot several times. I was written off for health reasons. This was before I met Nikki. She was one of the physical therapists who worked with me to help me learn to walk again. I still find it difficult to walk very far, but I managed to get around. After my dismissal, I became a private detective. Luckily, most of my work is done either at my desk or in the front seat of my car, and I don't have to run around much. I worked with one of the best detectives for several years, until he died of a heart attack. After his death, I took over the day-to-day work, reporting to my former boss's partner. Nikki and I dated for a while, fell in love and got married. The first 5 years of our marriage were wonderful. Or so I thought. However, a couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and high cholesterol. Of course, my habit of smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day didn't help matters much. Thanks in part to the medications I took for diabetes and cholesterol, I found that I couldn't have sex the way I used to. I even tried to quit smoking, but all it did was make me irritable. At first, Nikki said she understood and we did everything we could. Even if I couldn't maintain my arousal for very long, I still satisfied her. Anyway, she seemed to enjoy it, and I always made sure she got to the finish line. But over the past couple of years, something has changed. Slowly but surely, Nikki changed from a sweet, caring, loving woman to a shrew that I sometimes didn't recognize, constantly ordering me around and becoming hot-tempered over trifles. Nothing I did seemed to satisfy her anymore. To top it all off, our personal life has become almost non-existent over the past year. I did everything I could to keep her happy, but it seemed to be a lost cause. I was hoping that this little trip to a mountain resort could rekindle the spark between us. But it became clear to me that this was a hopeless cause. As I looked at the man deliberately exposing himself to Nikki without a care in the world, I realized that he seemed somehow familiar to me, but I just couldn't place him. Earlier today, Thursday, Nikki said she was going shopping with her sister, so I decided to go play golf. I returned a little earlier than planned, took a shower, and got dressed. I was hoping to take Nikki out to dinner and dancing later as a possible prelude to sex. As I was getting dressed, Nikki ran into the room wearing a bathrobe. Her hair was wet, and she seemed flushed. She sat on the bed and looked at me for a while. "I thought you were going shopping with Kirsten," I said. "I changed my mind," she said. "Instead, I went to the hot bath." "I see it," I told her. "Were there any naked men there today?" "Oh, yes," she said with a smile. "There was a guy with a ponytail. His name is Ramon Torres. He's doing some work at a film studio on the West Coast. You would really like him." That's when it dawned on me. I knew exactly who he was. Yes, Torres does work for a film studio, but you likely won't see his work on the big screen. That's because his work is a little more lame. "I take it you've gotten to know this guy Ramon a little," I said. She snorted at this. Yes, I did it, she said. And some of his friends. I understand, I said. Did you have a good time? It was the best time I've had in years, she said. Is this what you had in mind all along? I asked. Her face changed, and I realized that the shrew had returned. Yes, that's true, she said. I looked at her, and for a moment I had no idea who this woman was. She looked at me before continuing, You cannot even imagine. For years you were the only man I ever had sex with. But the last 2 years have been real hell for me. I'm dying to have sex, but you can't even do it half the time. You know why? I said. All these damn drugs the doctor prescribed for me. It is not my fault. Of course it is, she said. All these years you've been smoking, drinking, eating crap food, and lately you've barely been exercising. Now you're paying for it. And me too. I need a man. Someone who has nice big equipment. Someone who doesn't cater to my every whim. I need someone who orders me to do what he wants, not one who sits behind a desk and refuses to confront me. I felt like I had just been punched in the gut. I couldn't believe what she was saying. I shook my head and wondered if this was all just a nightmare. However, she wasn't done yet. Do you know what he did? She asked with a grin. He ordered me to take off my clothes right there in front of them all. And you did it? I asked. Of course I did it, she said. And you had sex with them too? I asked, already knowing the answer. She giggled as she shed her robe, revealing her naked body underneath. I saw bruises and bite marks on her. Have sex? She asked sarcastically. No, I fucked them. Everyone. I even fucked 3 of them at the same time. And yes, I allowed them all to fill me. And you know what else? No, I said quietly, trying to contain my anger. What? They're all heading here now, and they're going to fuck me senseless right here in this bed while you watch, she said. I stood up and walked to the closet, where I grabbed my suitcase. What are you doing? She asked. Are you going to run away like a little weakling? I took a breath before answering and counted to 10. Now I remembered what it was about Ramona that drove me crazy. Apparently he had a nasty habit of getting women hooked on sex and drugs. He then recruited these women to star in adult films for him. Once he was done with them, he usually kicked them out onto the streets, where they eked out a miserable existence as fallen women, having sex with anyone for the next fix. The morality guys tried, unsuccessfully, to take him out of the game several times over the years. If you were smart, you would run away too, I said. But you're not too smart, are you? Stay and have fun if you want, but no matter what, it's over between us. Say hello to your sister. I finished packing my suitcase and headed towards the door. What? Are you just going to leave me? She asked with a smirk on her face. Yes, I'm leaving, I said. I'm fed up with your crap, and I will not be your willing cuckold. Goodbye. With these words, I turned and left. As I walked down the hallway, I saw Ramon and 4 of his friends walking down the hallway. After they passed me, I called out to him. Ramon, I called. He turned and looked at me. Yes, what do you want? He asked. I took off my wedding ring and threw it to him. You want her? She's yours, I said when he caught the ring. I'm done with her. He grinned and put the ring in his pocket. Whatever you say, dude, he said. He snorted and turned back the way he had come. I walked to the car, loaded up, and drove off, stopping to buy a pack of cigarettes and a 6-pack of beer. At that point, I really didn't care if I lived or died and decided it was either smoke it or break something. 3 hours later, I was home. I was hoping Nikki would at least call and apologize, but she didn't. To hell with it, I thought to myself. It was still quite early, so I decided to take matters into my own hands. If Nikki thought she could just have her little gangbang and go home as if nothing had happened, then she was out of her mind. I called a locksmith and arranged for all the locks in the house to be changed. I had to pay extra for it to arrive quickly, but for me, it was worth it. I grabbed a beer, sat on the back porch with a notepad, and made a list of things to do. I've worked on enough cases involving cheating spouses to know how it goes. Typically, the husband would get the cuckolds while the wife would end up getting half of everything. I also knew that I would not be able to file on the grounds of adultery since it is a no-fault condition. Having made my list, I drank a couple more beers and smoked a few more cigarettes. Finally, I went to bed, hoping to wake up and find that it was all just a terrible nightmare, but that did not happen. The next morning, I got up and checked my phone, hoping against hope that Nikki would come to her senses. But she didn't. There were no calls, no text messages, nothing. I had a cup of coffee and called Nick Parsons, one of the top lawyers we worked for. After telling him what happened, he promised to prepare documents for divorce. We decided to notify her at her place of work on Monday to achieve maximum effect. "You know the rules of the game, Ned," he told me. "Don't do anything stupid." "You know me, Nick," I told him. "Yes, I know, and that's why I'm telling you not to do anything stupid," he said. "Talk to your boss and see if he can find someone to look after your wife and Ramon. I don't want you to be involved in this at all. You understood me? Stay away from this as much as possible." "Yes, I understand," I said. We ended the call and I dialed my boss, Paul Drake. "Hey, Ned, I thought you and your lovely wife were in the mountains," he said. "What's happening? Everything is fine?" "No, Paul, it's not like that," I said. He listened while I told him my story. "Damn," he said when I finished. "I'm sorry to hear it. Do you want me to send someone there to keep an eye on what's going on?" "Yes, that would be great," I said. "But it has to be someone Nikki doesn't know." "I have everything under control," he said. "You know, I've been doing this for a while. Do as Nick says, and stay out of this for your own good. I'll send someone there as soon as possible." "Thanks, Paul. I appreciate it," I said when we ended the call. From there, I went to the bank to take care of our accounts. I charged half and canceled her credit card. I thought about canceling her ATM card, but decided to leave it as is so we could track any charges she might have made on it. However, I reduced the amount she could receive daily. Once I was done with that, I went to another bank and opened an account in my name only. I stopped at a diner and devoured a pastrami sandwich and then headed home. There was really nothing more I could do except sit and wait. After a while, I decided it was time for me to take inventory of myself. I had to do something. I stepped on the bathroom scale and noted my weight, 98 kilograms. Then I looked at myself in the mirror. I still had a good figure, but I had developed a bit of fat, and the muscles that I had before when I wore the uniform have mostly become flabby. No wonder Nikki didn't want to have sex with me anymore, I thought. Heck, I wouldn't want anyone having sex with me at the moment. I remembered the doctor telling me that my diabetes would be easier to manage if I could get my weight below 200 pounds. He even gave me a nutrition guide, but I basically ignored it, thinking I was simply too young for that kind of thing. However, now I have changed my mind. Maybe in a way Nikki was right. I allowed myself to get into this state. But damn it, she didn't have to do what she did. If she really loved me, I reasoned, she would have said something sooner. I decided right then and there to change everything. Grabbing the phone book and a pack of cigarettes, I headed out to the back porch and looked for gyms. I found one or two and decided to check them out. I was about to leave when my phone rang. I saw that it was a number. I didn't recognize, but I answered anyway. "Carson," I said after answering. A female voice was heard at the other end of the line. "Ned, where are you?" the woman asked. I recognized Kirsten's voice. We hadn't spoken much in the past, and I was a little surprised that she called. "Nikki told me you left last night." "Yes, I left last night," I said. "Why do you ask?" "Well, we were just wondering what happened," she said. "Nikki looks like she was seriously bullied and sent to soak. I've never seen her in such a state. Then she told me that you two had a fight and you left. What's happened?" "Maybe you should ask her to tell you," I said. "Is everything okay between you two?" she asked. "No, that's not true," I said. "Tell me, did you know that Ramon Torres and his team are at the resort?" "Of course," she said. "They provide entertainment for our bachelorette party. I also asked them to bring a film crew." "Why did you ask?" "Oh, nothing," I said. "So you know what kind of business he's in, right?" Yes, I know, she said. He was highly recommended. Did Nikki know too? I asked. Yes, she knew, Kirsten said. I told her. To be honest, I was a little surprised when you showed up. It was just supposed to be a girl's thing, you know. But I thought that if you two liked the whole hot wife and cuckold thing, then it's really none of my business. So, you knew she intended to cuckold me? I asked. Yes, she said. We all knew this, I thought to myself. Why did you ask? Is there some problem? Nothing I can't handle, I said, not wanting to show my cards. Do you want me to ask Nikki to call you? She asked. No need, I said. Okay, she said. Look, just let her have a blast, okay? I know she still loves you. When she's finished, she'll come back to you. After all, it's just sex. No, that's not true, I told her. It was a heartless, cruel, calculated betrayal. And you helped it. Oh, please stop showing off, she said. It's just the weekend. You'll be back to pick her up on Sunday, won't you? No, I said. She can find her way back on her own, but she won't be welcome there. I heard Kirsten gasp when I said that, but I really didn't care. To hell with them all, I thought. Goodbye, Kirsten, I added, ending the conversation. So Nikki knew this was coming from the very beginning and even planned it in advance just to humiliate me. I wanted to punch a hole in the wall. Instead, I went to the gym and spent time hitting the bag, pretending it was Nikki and Ramon. I punched until I had no more strength in my arms and finally took a shower. Are you okay? I heard a man ask while I was getting dressed. I looked and saw one of the trainers standing there. Not really, but thanks for asking, I said. I saw you there on that punching bag, he said. I thought you would end up hurting yourself. Do you want to talk about it? What the hell? I thought. I sat down and took a breath. He sat down on the bench and waited patiently. I finally told him the whole story. I'm sorry to hear that, he said. Please call me Ned, I said. Okay, Ned, he said in response. Look, if you want to get back in shape, I can help you. But I think you need to do more than just lose weight. If you want, I can recommend you a good consultant. I looked at him and thought for a moment before answering. I realized that he was right. I was a complete mess, both physically and emotionally. What the hell? I said. Looks like I could use all the help I can get. He laughed and handed me a business card. Rose Carlson, counselor, the sign read. Call her, he said. She's damn good, especially at things like yours. Yes, I'll do that, I said. At the same time, I couldn't help but notice that you prefer not to put any weight on your right leg, he said. I explained that I was injured as a result of the shooting. He listened and nodded his head. I can help you with this if you want, he said. We can also help you with your diet and exercise regimen, but you will have to commit to a long-term program. We have people here who specialize in people with diabetes. Are you ready to do this? I thought about it before answering. Yes, I said, nodding my head. I knew I had to do something. And fast. Okay, he said. Let's sign you up. By the way, my name is John. John Green. He extended his hand, and I accepted it. Ned, I told him. Ned Carson. Carson, he repeated. I've heard this name before. Wait, now I remember. You were the cop who saved my grandmother's life during a bank robbery. This was, 8 years ago or so? It was a robbery during which I was shot. It's nice to finally meet you. By the way, how is your grandmother doing? I asked. She's doing well, John said. Thanks for asking. He took me to the front desk and signed me up for a program that he said would help me lose weight and regain my strength. He introduced me to several of his colleagues as the police officer who saved his grandmother's life, and they all thanked me for my service. Listen, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, he said when we finished. And please be sure to contact Rose. I will do so, John, I said. Thanks for everything. I left the gym feeling better than I have in a long time. It was nice to be appreciated by someone for a change. When I got home, I called Rose and made an appointment for the following Tuesday. I held out some hope that Nikki might call or text, but she never did. I did receive a call from Paul, who told me that they had an operative on site who would record her actions and report directly to him. I thanked him and informed him of my meeting with Rose. "Okay," he said. "I'm glad to see you taking positive action, Ned. Take as much time as you need to figure this out. I'll fill you in when I hear anything from our guy at the resort. Just calm down now. Do you hear me?" "Yes, I understand you," I told him. We ended the conversation and I tried to relax but found it almost impossible. Part of me wanted to go and drown my sorrows in a bottle, but the rational part of me said, no. I waited agonizingly for the rest of the weekend but didn't hear anything from anyone, until Sunday, around 10:01 a.m. Paul contacted me to say that Nikki had left with Ramon and his team that morning. "Looks like she was very busy over the weekend," he told me. "We have video, audio, photographs, reports. I'll give this all to Nick and make a copy for you in case you want to see it." "Do you know where they went?" I asked. "I have no idea," Paul said. "They left around 9 a.m. "Okay," I said. "That means she should be here around 12 or so." "As long as she comes home," Paul said. "Yes," I said in agreement. "Stay in touch and let me know if she shows up," he told me. "I'll do so," I told him, ending the conversation. I decided to take a chance and dialed Nikki's number. Unfortunately, the message went straight to voicemail. "Nikki, call me when you get this message," I said. "I know that you left the resort. Call me." I ended the call and dialed Kirsten's number. She answered after the third ring. "Kirsten, this is Ned," I said. "Yes, I know," she said. "You missed one hell of a party, Ned." "Somehow, I feel like I haven't really missed that much," I told her. "As I understand it, Nikki left with Ramon." "Yes, they left early this morning," she said. "Do you know where they were going?" I asked. "I have no idea," she said. "I'm not my sister's keeper. I assumed they were heading to your house, but I'm not sure." "Do you really care whether she comes home or not?" I asked. "Hey, don't be harsh with me," she said. "Nikki is a grown woman and she can do whatever she wants and go wherever she wants, with whomever she wants. If she decides not to come home, that's not my problem. Now get lost." With these words, she ended the conversation. I put the phone back in my pocket and sat in the living room, waiting. It's amazing how slowly time passes when you look at the clock. The minutes passed slowly. Pretty soon it was 12:30 and Nikki still hadn't shown up. I waited anxiously, but nothing happened. An hour later, there was still no word from Nikki, and my voicemail still wasn't answered. I launched the search app on my mobile and tried to find her using it, but to no avail. Apparently, she turned off her phone and took out the battery, so I couldn't track her. I turned on my computer and checked my email. Nothing. I continued to wait, and wait, and wait a little longer. By 6 p.m., she still hadn't shown up, and I assumed she either hadn't returned home or had been in an accident on the way. I contacted Paul, who made several calls only to find out that she had not been hospitalized and, as far as he could tell, had not been stopped by the police along the way. I got an idea and went back to my computer. I thought that if she used her card at the ATM, I would see that it was reflected in our account. When I opened the online check-in, I saw that around 9:45 a.m. at the airport, which is fairly close to the resort, $200 had been charged. This was the daily limit I set her card to on Friday. Based on this information, I assumed that she decided to fly off with Ramon and his gang. But where? Opening another browser window, I checked for flights out of that airport and saw one departing to Los Angeles at 11 p.m. I've also seen flights to Miami, San Francisco, Dallas, and Seattle around the same time. I knew Ramon lived on the West Coast, so I figured that was where she was headed, but I wouldn't be sure until she used the map again. I called Paul and brought him up to date. "I think we'll have to wait until she uses her card again," he said. "It will happen at the earliest tomorrow," I told him, "and by then she could be anywhere." "Have you considered reporting her missing?" he asked. "The police won't do anything until she's gone for at least 24 hours, I said. "Then we have nothing left to do but wait," he said. "Is there anything in the video transcripts that indicates where she might have been going?" I asked. "I figure if we go through it line by line, we might be able to find something," he said. "Do you want to try to figure this out?" "I have to do something," I said. "There must be something that indicates where she is." "Okay, Come over to my house and we can start discussing this if you want, he said. But I have to tell you, what I saw from this was not very pleasant. I don't care, I said. I need to know where she's going and whether she'll ever come back. Well, then come, he said. We ended the conversation and I drove to Paul's house as quickly as the law allowed. When I got there, his wife Donna opened the door and let me in. Can I get you something to drink, Ned? Maybe coffee? Or do you prefer beer? She asked. I need to collect my thoughts, I said. Coffee would be ideal, please. Okay, she said. Paul is in his office, so go straight there. I walked into Paul's home office and saw that he was looking through a rather thick stack of papers. He looked up when I entered. Come in, Ned, he said. Here, take this and see what you can find. He handed me a thick stack of papers, and I sat down to look through them. He was right. It wasn't pretty at all. Mostly Nikki was begging to be fucked harder and faster, and there were a lot of comments from Ramon and his gang regarding the quality of all her charms. Most of it was quite sickening and childish, in my opinion. I also couldn't help but notice the obligatory insults Nikki and her lovers were throwing at me. It's a pity that your loser husband was too cowardly to stay by your side, Ramon said. Yeah, well, it's his loss, Nikki said. He will never touch me again. He gave me his ring when he left, Ramon told her. He said that now you are all mine, and it's over with you. Laughter. Maybe I'll pee on him for old time's sake, she said. Laughter. At that moment, I wondered what it was that I had ever seen in her. Good riddance to bad trash, I thought. We continued to review the transcripts, trying to find a clue. Suddenly, Paul screamed. Wait, he said. I think I found something. What? I asked. It was late Saturday night, around 11:45 p.m., he said. Here, read this. Tell me what you think. I took the transcript from him and began to read a few lines above where he indicated in order to better understand the context. God, boss, she's the best we've had in a long time, said one of Ramon's henchmen. We could make a lot of money off this ass. You think so? Asked Ramon. Oh, hell yes, said the other footman. What do you think? Asked Ramon. Are you ready to earn some real money? I'm not a fucking fallen woman, Nikki said. Laughter. No, baby. I'm talking about movies, online videos, Ramon said. You have an amazing body and a pretty face. All you have to do is do what you're doing right now in front of the camera. You do this innately. I've been thinking about a whole new line of cuckolding and humiliation videos, and you'd be perfect. Yes? When can I start? She asked. We can leave right after the party if you want, Ramon said. We will give you a nice apartment in Los Angeles, and you will work exclusively for me. Of course, I get a cut of everything, but you could make a hell of a lot of money if you make enough videos. Can I have some more of that white stuff you gave me earlier? She asked. And a little of this ecstasy? Whatever you want, baby, he said. You mean I get as much sex as I want and I get paid? She asked. And I will humiliate losers like Ned? That's right, said Ramon. Count on me, she said. What about your loser husband? Asked one of the footmen. Are you going to tell him? To hell with him, he's in the past, she said. He'll never see me again. When are we leaving? Tomorrow morning, said Ramon. We leave here at 9 a.m., go to the airport, and then fly west. Hell yes, she said. Let's do it. I returned the transcript to Paul. Do we have this on video? I asked him. Yes. Let me just take the disc and turn it on, he said. He pulled out one of the discs and inserted it into his computer, then played the video, redirecting it to the timestamp in the transcript. He looked at me before starting. Are you ready for this? He asked. Let's get this over with, I said. He started the video, and I saw that it was filmed through the window of Nikki and I's room. She was lying on the bed naked. Ramon was next to her, and they were surrounded by his lackeys, one of whom was holding a camera. Next to them was a tray containing several shots of what appeared to be cocaine. I could tell by the way she was acting that she was high on something, probably cocaine. I looked closer to see if I could spot anyone else, but I couldn't. I wouldn't be surprised to see Nikki's sister at the center of it all. We watched the video accompanied by the transcript. After they finished talking, They had group sex again. "I've seen enough," I said with disgust. "Turn it off." Paul turned off the video and looked at me. "Well?" he asked. "She's clearly doing this of her own free will, even though she's high on cocaine and God knows what else," I said. "So there can be no talk of kidnapping. And I didn't see Kirsten anywhere in this video, so it's doubtful she knows anything. Even if she knew, she wouldn't say. But we must still make a good faith effort to find her so we can notify her. Do you know anyone in Los Angeles?" "Please, Ned," Paul said. "You know, I have connections everywhere. I'll make a few calls and see what we can come up with. When you find her, please let me know," I said. "I want to be the one to give her the documents." "No way, Ned," Paul said. "This won't happen. I know you've been in a lot of pain, but you shouldn't get deeper into this than you already are. I know you. You'd do something stupid and I'd have to fly out there to get you out of jail. You stay right here. Let Nick and I take care of this. So help me God, I will revoke your license if you even think about leaving." Okay, I said, raising my hands. "I'll be a good boy. I promise." "Damn better," Paul said. "Let me make a few calls and then I'll contact Nick. Don't worry, I'll make sure you're up to date. Now go home, have a beer, relax, and watch TV. In fact, why don't you take a few days off?" "I can't do this, Paul," I said. "I have a business." "I have everything under control," Paul said. "Consider this an order. Are you on vacation? Effective immediately." "Okay," I said. "I'm on vacation. I'll be a good boy and go home." We shook hands and I headed out, thanking Donna for the coffee. I thought about having a beer again, but changed my mind and drove home. This was good because I heard the house phone ring as soon as I entered the living room. "Hello," I said when I picked up the phone. When I saw Kirsten's number pop up, I pressed the button on my answering machine to record the call. "Hi, Ned. This is Kirsten," she said. "Yes, I know," I told her. "And you should know that I am recording this conversation. I hope you do not mind." "Not at all," she said. "If I were in your place, I would probably do the same." "What do you want, Kirsten?" I asked. "I just heard from Nikki," she said. "She asked me to represent her interests if you file divorce papers against her." "Do you know where she is?" I asked. "She told me she's in Miami now, but she'll be moving around a lot and probably won't be back soon," Kirsten said. "Miami then?" I asked. I knew she was either lying or had been lied to. "That's true," she said. "At least that's what she said. She tells me that you will probably divorce her." "This is true?" "As we speak, documents are being drawn up," I said. "When they are ready, send them to me," she said. "I'll send you my address by email." "I'll pass this on," I said. "Did you know that she intended to leave me to become a slut in adult films for Ramon Torres?" "No, Ned, I didn't know that," she said. "I know you don't have a very high opinion of me, but it's the honest truth. I thought she was just going to have sex with him to make you jealous enough to do something about it, but I didn't know she would leave you. I was shocked when she told me about this. I happen to know that you are a fundamentally good person, Ned, so please accept my apologies." "Did you know about the drugs he used on her?" I asked. "Cocaine and ecstasy?" "Well, I knew about ecstasy, but not about cocaine," she said. "We all took some ecstasy that night, but I didn't see any cocaine." "You know what he does with the girls he recruits, right?" I asked. "He makes films for adults," she said. "He specializes in gangbangs, cuckolding, and humiliation. He decided to start a new series featuring more mature amateur women like Nikki. But I didn't know that he had his eye on her." "You didn't answer my question," I said. "Do you know what he does with them?" "I don't understand you," she said. "Don't play dumb, Kirsten," I said. "He will use them up, burn them down. Then he throws them out into the streets, where they are forced to have sex with anyone in order to get their next fix. This is what is in store for your sister. How long do you think she'll last?" "Is this concern on your part?" she asked. "Oh, please," I said sarcastically. "No matter how much I hate her now, I wouldn't wish this on anyone. Even you. Where is your concern for your sister? Not that it's any of your business, but I'll take her in before I let this happen to her," she said. "Make sure she knows that," I said. From what I know about him, he'll probably break up with her in 5 years. Maybe less. I hope you have a spare room at hand. You don't have to worry about the size of my place, she said. All I need to know is what you want in a divorce. You'll find out soon enough, I said. Very good, she said. Do you want me to give Nikki a message? No, I said. I have nothing to say to her at the moment. Well then, I guess we have nothing more to discuss, Ned. Once again, I'm sorry this happened. Ask your lawyer to send the documents directly to me. Any communication will be carried out through me, she said. Goodbye, Ned. We finished the conversation, and I stopped the recording. I called Nick and told him what she said. Representing the interests of his own sister, right? After facilitating her actions, he said, Wow, isn't this unethical? I asked. No, not at all, said Nick. But in my humble opinion, it doesn't look very good. We'll send Kirsten a copy of the documents, but I want to see if we can track down your wife and notify her in person. There's too much of a chance that Kirsten will conveniently not deliver the documents to her sister and then claim that she was never properly notified. Do you think she would really do that? I asked. Oh yeah, Nick said. You'd be amazed at some of the things I've seen her do. I'll talk to Paul and see if we can find Nikki. If not, we will do what is called divorce by publication. What is this? I asked. Well, when a spouse leaves and cannot be found, we can pay to publish the document in a newspaper where she will likely see it at least once a week for 4 weeks, he said. If it turns out to be in the Los Angeles area, as we believe, we will publish it both here and in the LA Times. This way we can show the court that we went through all the necessary hurdles to notify her. This is in addition to sending a copy of the documents to Kirsten, right? I asked. Absolutely right. Just because we're sending it to her doesn't mean Nikki will be notified, Nick said. We talked for a while longer before ending the call. I had a snack, smoked a cigarette, and went to bed. Over the next few weeks, we monitored Nikki's ATM card usage and determined that she was most likely located in the Long Beach, California area. Paul contacted his contact in Los Angeles and learned that investigators had spotted her at several nightclubs where she had performed on stage, but they had been unable to pin her down to any specific location. Pat Silva, Nikki's supervisor at the clinic where she worked as a therapist, called to ask about her since she hadn't bothered to show up for work. I calmly told her that Nikki had decided to change her profession. What do you mean by career change? Asked Pat. Didn't you hear? I asked. She decided to start filming adult films. What? Pat asked incredulously. Yes, she wants to be an adult film star and a drug addict, I said. She's somewhere in Southern California, chasing her dream, right now as we speak. I'm surprised she didn't tell you. Ned, you better not be kidding me, Pat said. I'm sorry, but it's true, I said. So she won't come back, right? Asked Pat. I would be very surprised if she did that, I said. Okay, I'll process her final payment and fire her, she said. Is there an address where I can send this? For now, you can just mail it here, I said. I'll give this to her lawyer. Okay, Ned, she said. I'm sorry to hear about it. We will miss her. Thanks, Pat, I said, ending the conversation. I received Nikki's last paycheck and forwarded it to Kirsten as promised. I don't know if she ever passed that on to Nikki. To be honest, I didn't care. I began my consultation with Dr. Rose. She was a very good consultant and listened to what I had to say. At first, I thought she was going to give me a lot of psychobabble or maybe even blame me for what Nikki did. But much to my surprise, she didn't. By the end of the first month, I started to feel much better. My time at the gym was also quite beneficial. I was able to lose a few pounds and developed a diet that I could actually live with. John helped greatly, and soon I was able to see the old me begin to reappear in the mirror. Nick was busy too. After drafting an extremely one-sided petition for divorce, he published it in the local newspaper and in the LA Times twice a week for 4 weeks. Towards the end of the 4th week, he kindly sent a copy to Kirsten, who was not very happy. She demanded to meet with me and Nick as soon as possible. "What the hell does this all mean?" she asked when we met in his conference room. "This is an insult, not a request for divorce. What the hell are you trying to achieve by demanding a 75-25 split? Without any support? The real insult is what your client did to her husband. With your help, I might add. Since your client has decided to walk away from the marriage, my client and I both believe this is the most appropriate response," Nick said. "She didn't even bother to take care of moving her things out of my client's house." "My client hasn't even been served with the documents yet," Kirsten hissed. "That's because your client was hiding in the Los Angeles area," Nick said. "Since we do not have her address, and you were not very willing to tell us about your client's whereabouts, we decided to file a divorce by publication. A fourth ad has just been published in both the local newspaper and the Los Angeles Times. I'm going to fight this, you know," she growled. "As you wish," Nick said, and she fought. She filed motions that went nowhere and requested counseling, which the judge reluctantly agreed to order. I was shocked when Nick told me about this. "Don't worry about it," he said. "Judge Potter hates traitors and loves policemen. Kirsten thinks she's driving, but in reality she gives Nikki just enough rope to hang herself." "What do you mean?" I asked. "Nikki probably won't come to the consultation," he said. "Judge Potter hates it when people disobey his orders. When that happens, he will likely issue a bench warrant for her arrest." "This is what I would like to see," I told him. I showed up at the court-appointed counselor's office exactly at the appointed time, and, of course, Nikki was not there. I knew consultant Judy McGregor because she was the police consultant who worked with me after I was shot. We spent an hour catching up, and she listened to me tell my story. "I take it you can't imagine making peace with your wife?" she asked. "Not at all," I said. "Okay," she said. "I will report this to the judge, as well as her absence. Good luck, Ned. It was nice to see you again." From what Nick told me later, Judge Potter was furious that Nikki had disobeyed his orders and issued a bench warrant for her arrest. He told me the warrant was valid for 5 years. We continued to monitor her ATM usage and noticed that while most of her activity was in the Long Beach area, she used it several times in San Francisco and San Diego. It looks like she was very busy. At the same time, I did a search and found several short videos of her. I could only stand and watch them for a few minutes, and I noticed that they were all on the same topic: group sex and humiliation of the supposed husband. I almost threw up when I realized that this was exactly what she probably wanted to do to me. Finally, a date for our court hearing was set. I met Nick at the courthouse, and we went inside. I looked around and saw Kirsten, but Nikki was nowhere to be seen. I wasn't surprised. When it was our turn to approach the bench, Nick and I took our seats and watched as Kirsten sat alone at her table. Judge Potter was not happy to see her alone. "And where is your client?" he asked. "She's not well at the moment," Kirsten said. "Unwell?" asked Judge Potter. "What the hell does that mean?" "She's at work right now," Kirsten added. "At work?" asked the judge. "Damn it, she's an adult film actress. What? There are no beds in this city? Is her job more important than this divorce?" "She just couldn't leave, Your Honor," Kirsten said. Judge Potter sighed heavily and stared at the documents in front of him. "Very good," he said. "In light of this, I will issue another court order, and I am ready to enter the divorce decree in court today." "But, Your Honor, we still need to submit motions," Kirsten said. "I saw everything I needed to see, lawyer," said the judge, clearly annoyed. He looked both ways before continuing. "While there are guidelines that govern what a court can award, the fact is that in this state the bench has a lot of discretion in determining the division of marital property," he said. "In the course of my reflections, I appreciated both sides in this dispute. On the one hand, there is a highly decorated former police officer who almost lost his life, protecting a 70-year-old grandmother. On the other hand, there is a woman whose lawyer admits that she is a drug-abusing adult film actress who deliberately betrayed and abandoned her husband to pursue her debauched lifestyle. And it is my understanding, lawyer, that you had a hand in facilitating some of your client's actions. I have to say, This really worries me. I consulted the state bar, and they told me there were no ethical violations even though you came awfully close to crossing the line. I advise you to be more careful in the future. After reading all the documents and the attorney's report, I feel that I have no choice but to grant the plaintiff's petition for divorce as filed," he said, banging his gavel. "Good luck, Mr. Carson, and thank you for your service to this community," he added. I looked at Nick in surprise. "Did we just win?" I asked. He smiled, looking at me. "Of course we did it," he said, shaking my hand. "Congratulations, Ned. You are now a free man." Kirsten collected her things and came up to us. "Congratulations, Ned," she said, extending her hand. "You've got your pound of flesh. I hope you're happy now." I took her hand and shook it. I knew that losing such a case would not be easy for her. "No, I'm not happy," I said. "I haven't been happy for quite some time." I took a DVD out of my briefcase and handed it to her. "You once said that if I need to tell Nikki something, I'll let you know. Here is my last message to her. You can look at it if you want, I don't care. I also have a cashier's check for her portion of our account. I closed it late last night. I'll give this to her," she said quietly. "By the way, what's on the DVD?" "Nothing special," I said. "Just a little message for her. In fact, it was more than just a small message. The day before, I hauled a 50-gallon drum out to the backyard and mounted the camera on a tripod. While the camera was filming, I filled a barrel with all the clothes she had left behind, including her $2,500 wedding dress, every photograph I had of her, and many little trinkets she had collected over the years. I even broke the wedding portrait that hung above our bed and stuffed it in a barrel. I doused everything in the barrel with lighter fluid and set it on fire. While it was burning, I spoke into the camera. "Nikki," I began, "there was a time when I would have taken a bullet for you. I loved you with all my heart the entire time we were together, and I had hoped that we could grow old together. Unfortunately, you had other plans. So this won't happen. I've seen some of your work on the internet, and I can't help but think that this is what you intended to do to me. This won't happen either. Don't ask if we can ever be friends. Friends don't do what you did. And don't ask me if I will ever forgive you, because I won't. I just hope that one day you wake up and smell the coffee before it's too late. Goodbye, Nikki," I said before leaving the camera to record the final destruction of everything she had left in the house. Life continued after Nikki. I redecorated the house, banishing everything that even slightly reminded me of my ex-wife. I continued my consultations with Rose and worked out at the gym 3 days a week. I even stuck to the diet we made together and threw my cigarettes in the trash. A couple of months later, I weighed myself and discovered that I was now 84 kilograms. I still had a lot to do, but I felt better than I had in a long time. The only thing I was missing was the female companionship I once had with Nikki. And then it happened. I was at the local market buying some groceries when I ran into her. Literally. It was an accident. I wasn't looking where I was going and crashed into her with my cart. When I realized what I had done, I apologized profusely and came face to face with the most charming smile imaginable. Needless to say, I was disarmed. For a second, I forgot to breathe. Then I introduced myself and noticed that she wasn't wearing any rings. She accepted my apology and told me her name was Brenda Wilkins. We started talking and somehow I managed to invite her to dinner. Much to my surprise, she agreed. As it turned out, Brenda was a widowed doctor. Her husband and young son had died in a car accident several years earlier while returning from a father-son camping trip. I expressed my condolences and told her about my divorce from Nikki. Somewhere in all of this, I mentioned my diabetes and what the medications did to me. She nodded her head in understanding. "I've encountered this before," she said. "Look, why don't you come to my office with your meds and let's see what we can do about it." I made an appointment and brought all my medications. She was shocked when she saw everything. After drawing some blood, she suggested making a few changes, and I felt a difference almost immediately. "Of course," she explained, "my diet and exercise had a lot to do with it, and giving up cigarettes was a huge help. The first time we slept together, I felt like a completely different person, and for the first time in more than 2 years, I felt satisfied. The next morning, when I woke up and saw Brenda's pretty face, I knew there was no way I could give this up. She covered my face with kisses when I asked her to marry me. After we got married, we sold our houses, pooled our money, and bought a new house in a newly developed area. We both decided that it would be nice to start over so that nothing would remind us of the past. A little over a year after we got married, Brenda gave birth to twins, a boy, Christopher, and a girl, Julie. Life went on as usual with the Carson family, and I discovered that I loved being a father. One day, about 10 years after we got married, there was a knock on the door. I opened the door and saw Kirsten standing on the porch. She looked like she had been put through a meat grinder. "Ned, good to see you again," she said. "It's good to see you, Kirsten," I replied. "Please come in." She entered and looked around. I invited her to sit down and introduced her to Brenda and the children. "So, what brings you here, Kirsten?" I asked. "This is Nikki," she said. "You were right about Ramon." "About?" I asked. "What's happened?" "It took about 5 years, but he eventually used it up, just like you said," she told us. "She ended up on the street doing magic tricks to support her addiction. Unfortunately, women of easy virtue of her age do not live long on the streets. She managed on her own for a while, but eventually ran out of money and became homeless. She was found unconscious in an alley and taken to a rehabilitation center. I found out about this a few months ago and ordered to bring her here. She has cancer, and it doesn't look like she'll last long." "I thought you said you'd never let her get to that point," I said. "What's happened?" "We lost touch with each other about 6 years ago," she said. "Los Angeles authorities contacted me and I flew out to see her. She doesn't look good." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said. "What do you want from me?" "She wants to end this," Kirsten said. "She wants to see you one last time. I know you don't think highly of her or me, but I hope you find the strength to see her one last time. Please." It was something new. Kirsten asked for a favor. I looked at Brenda and saw concern on her face. "What do you think?" I asked her. "Kirsten is right, honey," she said. "She needs to calm down. And honestly, you think so too." "How serious is cancer?" she asked Kirsten. "That's bad," Kirsten replied. "By now, the infection has spread throughout most of her body. The doctors said that if they had caught the disease much earlier, they might have been able to cope with it, but now it is too advanced. They say she may live for a few more months or even a few hours." "Okay," I said. "I'll go see her." "I'll go with you," Brenda said. I agreed and took out my phone to arrange a babysitter. Carla, a teenage girl who lived next door, often helped us and, as it turned out, was free. After she arrived, Brenda and I followed Kirsten out. When we got to the hospice, Kirsten showed us Nikki's room. I was shocked when I walked in. I didn't even recognize her. Her thin, frail body had many tubes embedded in it, and her face was blotchy and discolored. It was as if all the beauty she once possessed had been sucked out of her. She opened her eyes as I stood next to her bed. "Ned," she croaked, and a tear rolled down her face. "Is this really you? You look so good." "Yes, it's me, Nikki," I said. "Oh, Ned, I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I screwed up so badly. I spoiled it all. I know you said you'll never forgive me, but I'm begging you. Please, it hurts so much. Forgive me." I looked at Brenda and saw a tear roll down her cheek. I knew what I had to do, and it would be the hardest thing I've ever done. I sat down and took her hand. She was cold to the touch. "It's okay, Nikki," I said. "I forgive you." She burst into tears and grabbed my shirt with her other hand. I hugged her and let her cry on my shoulder. A few minutes later, a nurse came in, looked at her chart, and administered something to her IV. "This will help her get some sleep," she said before leaving. I looked and saw that she was already falling asleep, so I put her head back on the pillow. "Thank you for coming," Kirsten said. "You're welcome," I said, nodding my head. "How long will you stay here?" "I'll stay until the end," she said quietly. "I have a laptop and I work remotely. I've already agreed on everything. There will be no memorial service." She didn't want this. "What happened to Ramon?" I asked. She opened her purse and pulled out a folded piece of newspaper. "After he kicked her out, he hired another girl," she said. "Her husband didn't take it too kindly and killed him. quite brutally. I quickly looked through the article. The mutilated body of Ramon Torres was found in an abandoned warehouse in Ontario on Saturday morning, the article said. Disfigured? I asked Kirsten. Yes, she said. Wow, I said. And they know for sure that her husband did it? Yes, she said. He was seen leaving the warehouse. The jury found him not guilty on the grounds of temporary insanity. I can understand that, I said. I wanted to do this with him myself. I'm sorry, Ned, she said. For all. Yes, I said quietly. Anyway, we both felt bad after watching that video you gave me, she said. I never really thought about sex outside of marriage until I saw this video. Until then, it was just something I did for my own satisfaction. After I watched this video, my opinion changed. I never truly understood how much it hurt to be deceived, or how expensive it could be, she added, glancing at Nikki. Thanks to you, I am no longer the woman I was 10 years ago. I'm glad to hear that, Kirsten, I said. Take care of yourself, Ned, she said, hugging me. And take care of my ex-brother-in-law, she told Brenda, hugging her. Count on it, Brenda said, hugging her back. We got out and returned to the car. Are you okay? Brenda asked as we fastened our seatbelts. Yes, I'm fine, I said, starting the car. Karma. This could really be unbearable, I thought as I headed home. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.